So you wanna be a picture book writer, then you gotta write picture books. And you're gonna need a bucket load of bright ideas for titles, plots, and hooks. If you're partial to prose or you're raring to rhyme, then repeat after me, it's a challenge, but I'm gonna tackle each story 1 month at a time with 12 by 12.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 12 by 12 Picture Book Podcast. I'm published author Julie Headland and the founder of 12 by 12. And I am so lucky, and you are so lucky. We have a very special guest today, Rajani LaRocca, who is a longtime member of 12 by 12 and probably our most decorated member. She won the Newbery Honor Award for her gorgeous novel in verse, Red, White, and Whole. I'm going to send you to her website to see all of the awards that she's won and starred reviews on all of her respective works because she's written picture books and chapter books and middle grade and soon to be YA, which we'll talk about in a minute. She writes in rhyme, she writes in prose, she writes verse, as in non-rhyming verse. So you really do a little bit of everything. And in fact, you've done 2 webinars for 12 by 12 in the past. And for our listeners, we will offer 25% discounts on those. One is all about revision, which was hugely popular and so helpful. And you can get that one at 12by12challenge.com/Rajani1. And then the other one was about writing lyrically versus writing in rhyme and when to consider one over the other. And that is also a very hot topic. You can get that one at 12by12challenge.com/Rajani2. And last but not least, we will have a bundle of those 2 if you just can't decide which one you want. That's why we had to have her come back because it was like, oh, this is too good. We have to have you come back. And that would be 40% off both. And that will be, you guessed it, 12by12challenge.com/Rajani3. All right. And so with that out of the way, and all of that will be in the show notes, not to start us off on a more heavy topic, but one of the things I definitely wanted to talk to you about is you had a book come out last year that I think at the time you wrote it, it's always going to be important, but I don't think you could have imagined just exactly how important it was going to be. The book is called Some of Us: A Story of Citizenship and the United States. And I love the approach that you take. Some of us are citizens by birth. Some of us gain citizenship through immigration and naturalization. No matter where we are or where we come from, we are all American. With the attacks on naturalized citizenship and birthright citizen. I mean, there's attacks on everything right now, really. But the fact that this book came out last year in 2025, Trump term 2, year 1, can you just tell us what it has meant to have that book and if you've gotten any pushback or backlash?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, I want to say that, when I wrote this book, it was written from a place of joy. I was at a writers' conference. I met an editor. There were a bunch of us at a table, and 3 of us at the table were naturalized citizens of the US. And we had this conversation. And I said, I think maybe I should write a picture book about this because I don't think there's one on this topic. And this editor, who is a naturalized citizen, said, please write it because I would love to publish it. And so I was like, oh, this is great because we had shared our naturalization stories, like where we came from and like what it was like to take that oath of citizenship. And I was a 15-year-old when I became a citizen. So I immigrated when I was 1. My dad became a citizen when I was 6 and could have just signed me up to become a citizen right then. But he and my mom decided to let me choose when I wanted to do that and if I wanted to do that. And so when I was 15, I was like, this is my country. Like this is where I have grown up. This is the only country I know. So yeah, I want to become a citizen. And the test was not a challenge. We had literally just studied US government in, freshman year of high school. The interview was not a big deal. And then as a 15-year-old, I was like, oh, whatever. Like I'm so cool and I know everything.
Right.
And I went to that naturalization ceremony and I was so moved by what I saw. I like all these people from all over the world, and some of them were like parents holding their baby, and some of them were older people. It was so beautiful. And I was unexpectedly for me emotional. And I was like, oh my goodness. And it really kind of brought the joy and the gravity of that moment to life to me. So that is my memory of becoming a citizen. And that night we went to our friend's house and they got a cake for me that said "Welcome to the USA," which I thought was hilarious because I was like, I haven't been here in the USA, but it was so lovely. And it was the immigrant family from India like mine, and it was beautiful. Yeah, so that is where it came from. And then I realized, then I kind of knew it was going to be published in 2025. And then the election happened, and I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll see. We'll see what the world is like, the country is like at that time. And I don't think I could have ever predicted the horrors that we have been through since January of 2025. But as my husband likes to remind me, and I agree, it's more important than ever that this book be out there. And the book is very simple. It's written very lyrically. It is about how some of us are born American and some of us choose, and how people come from all over the world and come here. And if we're lucky and we choose, we can become American without relinquishing who we are, because that is the way this country has always been, right? I want people to remember that unless you're Native American, every single one of us, our families came from someplace else originally. And just because the political climate right now chooses to demonize some people from certain places doesn't mean that we should, right? We need to remember what this country is trying to be at all times, right? In the back of the book, there is some back matter on the history of naturalization in the US, which is it's pretty fraught, I have to tell you. I was surprised at some of the stuff I read. I was like, oh, so Asian Americans weren't allowed to become citizens until like the 1950s, having been
Wow.
here for over 100 years, right? Crazy. So, and women, of course, weren't given the right to vote until the 1920s.
Right.
So, hey,
Right.
so, I mean, it's wild. And I just hope this book is a celebration. The book is a celebration of all the people who make our country wonderful and strong and beautiful. I hope that by reading it, that is what people feel. I've had really great responses from kids in classrooms. Everybody starts talking about where their family is originally from. It's really adorable. That just makes me happy. Kids are able to see that and celebrate it. I hope that adults can too. I think most
Yes.
adults can. Yeah.
So we ran into each other in at NCTE in Denver last November. And I think I told you this story, but I want to tell this story again for our listeners because it is so powerful. I think sometimes you can watch the news and feel removed. Not lately, but I mean, maybe, I don't know, but if nothing is happening to you right now, sometimes maybe it can make it seem like, oh, that's happening over there and that's happening to that group of people. And not that we don't care, but it's like not. One thing that has really struck me this time around is it is impacting all of us. There is not one person who is not touched by what this administration is doing to all of us, not one of us. And I do not have a copy right now of some of us. And the reason I don't have a copy is because I bought it, I pre-ordered it, I got it when it first came out. And before we met, I think I told you that my basement flooded 4 times last
Oh,
year. And this is relevant to the subject, I promise. Every time they had to send a mitigation team out here, to get all the water and dry it all up. And the idea was that they were going to then, redo the drywall and the carpet and whatever. And then it would flood again and we'd go through the whole deal. And
oh,
there was one guy, one, who was here for all of them. And we bonded over our dogs. My dog Pepper loved him so much. You know how it just sometimes the chemistry, like she loves everybody. She's really a people person, but this, I mean, she would jump all the way off her back feet when he came in.
my
And
goodness.
yeah, so we got talking, and he was from Mexico and talked about dogs that he had as a kid, and then the dog that he has here, and all of this. And every time he came, we would just be having conversations. And then the last time he came, I don't remember how we got on the subject, but he was telling me that he was here legally, but ICE had been doing raids right here in Lafayette. Like I heard actually that they were hanging out at the McDonald's and Home Depot and places like that. And he and his wife have a daughter who was born here and so is a US citizen. And he said to his boss that he needed to take a day off work so that he could go with his wife to the passport office to get his daughter a passport that she could carry with her because they were concerned, and they wanted her to be safe. They wanted her citizenship to be established in the event that one or the other of them, got taken. And before, maybe you might say, well, they were here legally. Who cares? It doesn't matter
Mhm.
anymore. Citizens are getting
Yeah,
taken off the street. I mean, so
right.
his boss would not let him take the day off because he said we're too busy. So he said, okay, I quit because my job is to take care of my family. And if this country is certainly not going to take care of me or my family, then I have to do it. And of course, the guy backed off right away and let him. But anyway, we got talking about citizenship and how he'd been talking to his daughter. And I happened to have some of us right there on the counter. It had just come. And I was showing it to him. And he got very emotional and he said, my daughter would love this book. And so I said, take it. And he said, no, no. I said, no, really, you should take it. Take it. Give it to her, read it with anybody else who needs it right now. I can always order another copy. And so I
Mm.
did. I gave it to him. I haven't seen him since then because thankfully my basement has not flooded. But
That's
I
good.
I tell the story because I just think the exact right book comes along when you need it or someone needs it. And I was so grateful to have it and be able to give it to him. And it really affected me too, in terms of we all know people
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
communities, maybe in our families, maybe it's ourselves. So I just wanted to say thank you for writing that book. And I'm so glad to hear that it came from a place of joy
Oh, yeah.
because it should, right? This should not
Yes.
be political. It just shouldn't.
Right. Right. If you look at the illustrations, Huiven Lee is the illustrator, and she is also a naturalized citizen. And She does such a beautiful job using the colors of the United States, but kind of in different ways, and just unbelievably poignant, her illustrations. I'm blown away by them. I saw those first, you know how it is with the picture book. You don't know what it's going to
Right.
be like until you see those first sketches. And I saw them and I was floored by them, floored by them.
Really beautiful.
One spread has an American flag, and along the stripes are barbed wire, and there's a hand pulling it down. And I lost it when I saw that. It's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's, yeah. I mean, because I just, the good thing about picture books is that they tend to be less threatening to people than other books. And the illustrations go a long way towards that. And I don't see how you could read this book and not feel empathy and celebration towards people who leave everything they know, right, to come to our country. That's an act of courage and should be celebrated. And immigrants end up doing these jobs often that other people don't want to do or cannot do. Some immigrants are asked to come here because they have a special skill or ability. And also, they come here because this is a place of refuge. Historically, this is what our country stood for, right? Which is if you are in a horrible situation in your own country, you can come here and we will welcome you and you will become part of our communities. And that's what's happened all over our country. It's happened in Minnesota, happened in Ohio, happened in every state in the country. And to pretend that that's not true and to pretend that's not what we really are about as a country, it's just a shame. It's a shame. So I hope that when this period is over, because it will be over, we can look back and try and repair some of the damage that has been done.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think books like that will help. So thank goodness they are in the world. And let's put this in the category of books you never thought were going to be controversial. You also have, because you are a working physician,
Yeah.
and you have another book called Vaccine is Like a Memory. Now,
Mhm.
we wouldn't have thought at some point that this book would be, I mean, and did
In
that come out right?
23. Yeah,
Okay, so
it came
right
out,
after
yeah.
COVID. Were you
Yeah.
inspired to write it because of COVID, the COVID vaccine? Okay,
Yes.
yeah,
I remember the day I got my first COVID vaccine and I was like, thank goodness there is a way out, right?
right.
And also just feeling like, because even then there was pushback from a lot of people on like, should we get this vaccine, blah, 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 blah. And then that made me go back and research the history of vaccines. And it was kind of comforting, but also kind of frustrating to realize that every time there was a new vaccine, that there was pushback. And that somebody was like, but I mean, but the history of vaccines is fascinating. We don't remember in this country a time when epidemics and pandemics raged through, before COVID, raged through the entire country and killed or sickened so many people. But it wasn't that long ago that we had serious problems. So I went over that history and how smallpox was a big scourge for people and they didn't know what to do. And then how, based on science from India, China, Africa, from ancient times, people kind of like the Western medicine finally recognized, oh, there are some illnesses. There's an illness called cowpox that is a very mild illness, but people who get cowpox never get smallpox. Oh ho, maybe we should give people cowpox and then they'll be saved from this deadly illness. And that was kind of like the first immunization. And actually that is where we get the word vaccine. It is from vacca, which means cow in Latin. So
Mm.
that, yes, it's like, oh, it's fun. Yes. It started from there. And now luckily we don't have to like go get sores from cows and give them to people. We can,
Thank goodness.
that's right. We can make
Although
them in a
I would
lab
do
and
it
get,
if it prevented me from getting smallpox,
yes, me
Like
too, but
at
it's
this
kind
point
of
now, I
gross.
wonder, like, are we at risk of all of these diseases having a resurgence now that we're not, so many people are not anyway. But
The really scary ones to me are polio
yeah,
and smallpox.
hmm
So if like those are considered eradicated in our country and in most of the world, although not quite all of the world. But if that comes back, that is a
Yeah,
terrifying thing. I mean, as it is, we know that measles is really spreading in our country because of low rates of vaccination in certain areas, and also among little kids who can't get the vaccine yet, and among people who are immunocompromised. I mean, it's a disaster. It's a public health disaster.
right. I read recently somewhere that it's going to be touch and go the next time when they have to report, but whether or not the US will be considered eradicated from measles the next
Hmm.
time around,
Hmm.
because so far it hasn't been enough to indicate that we're not, but it's getting very precarious. And so, uh, anyway, let's move on to
Happier topics, maybe.
yes, because you also have written many books that are full of joy and fun. And I'm just going to name a few. Seven Golden Rings was your first one that has I remember when I first got it, and the illustrations are so beautiful, so colorful, and it's got so many layers. I am not a math person, and I would have to read the book every time to remember how he ended up getting the rings to work for what he needed them for.
Right.
But reading it, it didn't feel like a math book. And there's music and where three oceans meet, there's so many. And your recent titles, Summer is for Cousins and Fall is for Beginnings. I grew up having a family reunion and we did Thanksgiving with my cousins. And so there's a lot of joy across your work. One question I know a lot of people will have is with everything that you write, all the different genres, and how much you've published. I know I've asked you this before, but like you're very prolific. And how do you do that? You are still a practicing physician. In fact, I have to tell our listeners that when I reached out to you to set up a date and I gave you a date and you said, "Oh, I'm working that day and in the office. Can we do a different day?" I was like, thinking about how much you do and that it just made me think I really have to get writing again. But anyway, how do you do it? What's your routine if you have one? And how do you keep yourself motivated when I'm sure you must be tired?
Okay, so what I will say is that, I came back to writing later in my life. Like I had been a writer when I was young, all the way through like college. Although in college it was more, like personal essays and never
Hmm.
fiction, but I was a huge reader. Then I went to medical school and I was like, that's it. I can't fit anything else in my head. So I didn't write for a very long time, for a couple of decades, I would say.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah, it was only when my kids were like in school, and like I had been practicing medicine for a while that I was like, okay, what do I get to do that is just for me now? So I started taking online writing classes, and then I like took some in-person classes and met other writers. And that was the secret sauce, like meeting other writers who also were trying to tell their stories and trying to get published. That was the thing. It was always the people. So like when you have a critique group meeting and people are like, what happens next? And you're like, I have no idea. I guess I better go figure this out. And I never intended to write picture books initially, but then I took like a class that was on a survey of children's literature, and I was like, oh man, I had forgotten how amazing picture books are, and like how you can tell a complete story in such a tiny package, and how much the art brings to everything. And I was like, okay, and then I was inspired, and so then I started. So, I mean, I guess what I would say is that when I first started writing, I was worried that I would run out of ideas. But then as like started to write, I was like, oh no, the problem is that I have too many ideas, and like I've just got to choose the next thing that I want to write. So, and initially I like as a working mom, you know what it's like, Julie. You can't be precious. You have to just do what you can do in the time that you have, right? So like 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there, early in the morning, late at night, like while the kids were at a piano lesson, that kind of stuff. And then they got older and they had more things to do. So we had more time kind of sitting in the same room, all working on different things, which was fun. And then it became like a second career, a true second career, because I've been fortunate enough to have lots of books published. I guess what I would say, and then I ended up, I have cut back on my time practicing medicine, like
Mm,
seeing people in the office, but it still kind of expands to fill the time available. So,
right.
I mean, I guess the thing is, the real answer is if you love something, you always find time for it. And let me tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, last year has been a very, very hard time for me to do anything writing wise because most of the things that I write about come from a place of joy. And
Hmm.
I feel like that is hard as much as like I am happy, my family is good, everything is okay. With us personally, there's a feeling of dread and ennui that kind of pervades everything. And it's been really hard. So then you have to trick your brain. And you know what? And also sometimes you either have to trick your brain into just doing the thing it doesn't want to do, which is like, I'm going to write for 6 minutes and I'm not allowed to get up, you know. But the other thing is to just give yourself grace because, I mean,
I
it's okay.
know. I'm so glad that you said that because it has been hard. And if you are a person who absorbs the energy around you and which I think many, many writers are, because we're observers of the world and we're feelers because we have to bring this emotion into our work. And it's okay to be struggling when everything around you is just difficult. Some people may find that it motivates them because they want to do something to writing as resistance or what have you. But sometimes, and this hit me really hard last January. Then again, this year, in with the ice raids in Minnesota, it was just like for like days, I just couldn't it was all I could do to just get up and do the things I had to do, for 12 by 12. And yeah, so it's okay. It's okay to take care of your emotional health, to rest. One of the things that I think comes from having been writing for a while or in the business for a while, I don't know if you feel this way because you've published a lot pretty quickly. We go through slumps, and once you've been in one and come out of it, it's easier to know that if you're slumping for whatever reason, I've been in this place before and I know eventually I'll come back out, right? So do
Yeah.
you feel like you are coming back out, or are you still,
Oh, I'm still struggling, but
yeah,
I'm also just giving myself. I think that part of the way you can trick your brain into doing the thing it needs to do is to let it do whatever the heck it wants to do. So I'm like, I'm trying to like think about a story that no one is waiting for, that no one cares for publish it, and just allow myself to just play every once in a while and then go back to the thing that I love and I should like happily write it, but it's still really, really hard. And it's okay. And I think the nice thing about writing, which is different than medicine, is that no one is going to die. Like it's all going to be
right?
okay. And ultimately you will get this book done. And maybe, I mean, a lot of times I think that books take the time that they take because that's just the time that they needed. And so that's okay too. Life at home is busy and requires a lot of my attention and so there's other things that have to take precedence right now, but that's okay. I think it also helps that I'm older. I think that if I were in my 20s and I were faced with this, I would be like beating myself up with guilt and feeling terrible all the time. And I'm kind of like, you know what? Life is long. I know this because I published my first book at age 49. Life is long if you're lucky. So it's just like, it's okay. Like it'll
Yep.
all work out and it'll all get done. And
Right.
may get done in a better way, be a different book, be a better book for it.
Yep. Yep. I was going to say, once you reach a certain age, to use a phrase, you just have far fewer fucks left to give. Right? And that is a gift. That is a gift that I give to those of you who may be younger and stressing out about a lot of this and the time frame that everything takes, or wherever you are in your journey for that matter, because life continues. You will survive. And the book will eventually find its home, or you will move on to writing something else. And, because that happens a lot too. But I love that you said that the book might become a different book because
Mhm.
just last night, we're recording this in February, we had a special Ask Me Anything session with Heidi Stemple.
Oh,
I know.
yes. One
And
of my favorite people. Yes.
right? I know.
Yes.
We talked about last year at this time being there for her debut of Janie Writes a Play, which is special for so many reasons, not least of which because it's about her legendary mother, her origin story. But one of the things she said is that even when you have a book published, if you 10 years go by and you go back and you look at that book, you know, you're already a different writer, and you will probably notice things that you would have done differently as the writer you are now. And that can be true of manuscripts too, that maybe you started and then you got away from for a while and you go back and you look at it and you think, huh, this is not necessarily what I thought it was. And then you dig
Hmm.
in and it becomes the book that it was supposed to be because you had the space there. And I wonder if you've had that experience either with manuscripts or with books.
Yes. Okay. So my book, Your One and Only Heart, it's a picture book,
Yes.
and it's nonfiction about the human heart. I wrote it like long time ago, but it was not right. And I was sitting there going like, how do I, like, it was inspired by my fascination for the heart and the cardiovascular system and how it works and how cool is that. But the manuscript was like super just like boring and just like meh. And I was like, oh man, like what am I like how am I supposed to express this? And so I like put it aside and I worked on other stuff and like 5 years, 7 years, some significant amount of time passed between the when I put it down and when I picked it up again. And I read it and I woke up in the morning and I said, I know how to write this book. And so what
Hmm.
it is it's paired poems and it's like things that like seemingly contrasting characteristics of the heart. It's singular and cooperative, it's electric and muscular, so on and so forth. So there are 7 paired poems, and I was like, that's it, because it's interesting. It seems like it's the opposite, but both things are true. Like light is
Right.
a
And you added another layer because you've got the opposites in there,
right,
you know?
right. So it was really fun, and then so it got acquired, and then Lauren Page Conrad is the illustrator. This was her debut book. She works in cut paper collage, and when my editor suggested her, I said her work is beautiful, and I thought to myself, I don't know how you're going to do collage for an anatomy book, basically. Perfect. Perfectly is how you do it. She came back and she said, I have ideas for a color, like a color scheme that like along the top of each page, there'll be a color that are the colors of the rainbow. And like each poem will have like a darker and a lighter shade. So then if you wondered where you could find it, you could like go back and remember and I was like, that never even occurred to me, like, not being an artistic type. That was like, that's genius. And so in the back matter, there's a lot of back matter there that's also color coded. So much fun. And like it was
It
exactly
is
what
a
it
fun
needed to be.
book.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And but it was after years of just like struggling with it, but then just putting it away for years. And then you rediscover it and you're like, oh, okay. And somehow the synapses in the brain are like, we know, now we know. So it's good. It's okay. And so
Yeah.
that book would never have been what it is. It probably would never have been published if I hadn't just let it go for a while and come back to it.
Yep. Yep. So there's hope. You can always go back. Speaking of Jane Yolen, she says publishing goes in 7-year cycles. And you said that you probably let it sit for about 7 years.
Something like that,
So,
exactly. Yes.
the secret code inside you is kind of like that too. That's your book, your DNA book. And
Mhm.
I remember we talked a lot about that in your webinar on writing in rhyme versus writing lyrically. I just remember thinking when I read that, like, who can do that? Who can write about DNA and make it fun and funny and, zippy and whatnot? So, do you have a favorite book?
That I wrote?
Yeah.
Oh no. I don't think I can choose a favorite because I love them all. So they're like my children. I can't
Mm-hmm.
choose a favorite child. But I will say I feel so fortunate. I feel so very fortunate that I've gotten to write all kinds of genres. Like, so I've written contemporary fiction and fantasy and the kind of sci-fi tinge stuff, and I've written novels and I've written picture books and I've written fiction and nonfiction, and some of it is in poetry and some of it in prose. And I like feel very lucky because I feel like almost any mood that you might have, I probably have written a book
Have a
that
book
fits that
for you.
mood.
Yes.
Oh, would you like to weep? Here you go. You can have red, white, and
Yes.
whole. Oh, would you like to laugh and like get hungry? Then here's Midsummer's Mayhem. Would you like to learn about DNA and why we are who we are? Here you go. And here's an experiment, secret code inside you. Are you interested in exploring math? Like, all these things. Do you want a family story? It's been really fun, and I feel so lucky. And like people come up to me, like children come up to me, which is so just beautiful, and they're like, I I love this book because it reminds me of my family or whatever. And like they don't necessarily come from the same part of the world that my family comes from, which is also wonderful. But also adults come up to me and they're like, "Oh, I love this book. I love masala chai. Thank you for writing a book of."
Yes.
It's fun. It's been really fun. So I feel really lucky. And I feel like every book has something of me in it. So I have met some really good writer friends because I read their book and felt like, oh my God, I need to know this person who came up with this book. So I feel like if you've read one of my books, you know me, so we can be friends.
Yes, that's right. There's always a piece of us. And so I like to ask all of my guests, if you don't have a favorite book of your own, I like to ask everyone, what is a picture book that you wish you had written and why?
Okay, so I might be cheating a little bit. This is not exactly a picture book, but it is illustrated and it
Okay.
is like bite size. So there is a book called Random Body Parts, Gross Anatomy Riddles in Verse by Leslie Bullion. I have to tell you, so every spread is a riddle in poetry
Hmm.
modeled after a poem from Shakespeare.
Oh my
And every
gosh.
and
Come
every
on.
riddle, yes, and every riddle is about an organ system or an organ in the body. And I'm telling you, I read it and I was like, are you freaking kidding me? It's got the body, it's got Shakespeare, and it's written in poetry. I was like, this is like
That's all for
I
you. Right.
I wish I had written that book, but you know what? Probably couldn't have written that book. I'm glad Leslie wrote it because it is genius and it is so fun. And I just love it to pieces. I can't even say enough about it. She's written lots of things in verse, a lot of science verse poetry, some of which are classic lecture books. But this one it's just everything is up my alley.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. And it reminds me a little bit, just to plug another 12 by 12 member, it reminds me a little bit of Kari Lavelle's Butt or Face, like just the gross part of it.
Yes,
Like
yes.
that's one where I was like, what a genius idea. And I think she's about to publish the fourth one in that series. And then
Oh my gosh.
they're gonna be board books. And but yeah, the premise, if you haven't seen those books, is the googly eyes, and there's a picture of an actual creature. And you don't know whether you're looking at the butt or the face. So you have to guess. And then it again, like little poems and then some factual stuff about the animal. And the covers are, I think the one coming is super gross butts. I'm not sure. I've lost track, but
You know what? If you just say super gross butts, there's an entire
right,
cadre of children who are like, "Yep, I need that. I need that book in my life."
right. So it's interesting that you said gross anatomy. Like, but on the other hand, I'm not sure that's a book I could write. I just don't like writing necessarily about gross stuff, but I'll read it.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Yes.
think it's really fun and funny and brilliant. So anyway, all right, tell us quickly what you've got coming up, and then we'll.
Yes. So this year I have three books coming out, two of which are picture books. So one of them is called We Are the Light. It is a book about Diwali, the Hindu festival of Diwali. Oh, and that's coming out in the fall. I think it's September. And then the second picture book is Vibi in the Voice. And it is about a girl who is scared of the dark until she meets a girl made out of darkness who is scared of light. And together they help each other not be afraid. And oh my God,
Who's
it's Cindy
illustrating?
Derby. Cindy Derby
Oh,
is the illustrator. And it's like the
she's
artwork is,
perfect.
yes,
She's
it's like a
perfect.
dreamscape. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So yeah, that is coming out in November. I'm very excited about that. And then I have my first YA novel is coming out in August. And here it is. It is called Such
Woo!
Great Heights. Woohoo! Such Great Heights. And it is about high school mock trial, which I did when I was in high school. So much fun. But it's about a girl who really wants to be on the mock trial team, but finds when she's like when they get the case that the case is weirdly similar to how her own mother died.
Mm,
In and her mom was a lawyer, and this is all part of why she wants to be in mock trial. And then it is a contemporary reimagining of Sita's story from the Ramayana, so the Hindu epic, the
mm.
Ramayana. And Rama's wife Sita is like the driving force for much of it. It is this my book is about the nature of truth and whether it matters if no one believes you.
Oh my God, so perfect. I can't wait. I mean, you know that I'm such a fan of your work. I don't typically read much middle grade or even YA these days, but I read, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Sona and the Golden Beasts,
Yay.
and I love that book so much. And this sounds right up my alley. And I keep dreaming that I'm writing a middle grade novel, so maybe at some point that's going to happen. And one of the things when you told me the subject of this, I was in youth in government when I
Mm.
was in high school. And so we would go, this is in Michigan, and we would go to the Capitol building when they were in recess and literally take over, right? And so if I usually tried to be in the House or the Senate, and we had to write bills, and then we had to go into committees and all of this. And I think that would be really fun, to explore a little bit more. My father was a lawyer, so
Oh,
yeah,
go for it.
yeah.
Seriously. No, it's so fun. And the thing is that, the character in my novel is trying to like she's trying to uncover the truth about what happened to her mom because like all of a sudden after all this stuff comes out in this mock trial case, she's is what I was told really what happened? But that is in contrast to mock trial where literally there are two sides and every other week you have to basically switch back and forth and argue one side or the other. So in mock trial, there is no truth. It's just a matter of like how well you perform, right? And so, she's the person who believes like the truth is the truth. And she begins, she's like entering the real world where it's like, no, it's not that easy, right? And sometimes like, do do you want to know the truth? Is it too hard? Or is there a single truth that everyone can agree on, or is it just a matter of the perspective that you have that you can argue either way? So yeah, it was a fun book to write.
I bet. I bet.
Yeah.
And when's that coming out again?
August 11th.
All right. We'll be on the lookout for that.
Ooh.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure. We'll have the discounts on your various webinars that you did for 12 by 12 in the show notes and also on our website. And we will be looking with great anticipation for your next books. And thank you. Thank you so much for everything you
Thank
do.
Thank you, Julie. Thanks for having me on. Thank you for everything you do for creating this amazing community for writers and illustrators. Just really, you're
Yes,
amazing.
you're so welcome. Thank you. And those of you listening, like, subscribe, comment, review, all those things really help the podcast and the YouTube channel if you're watching it there. So thanks, everybody. Ciao for now.
Bye.
Do it together so never you fear. It's a handy little way to help you kick into gear. You're amazing, exciting. Look out, 'cause you're writing 12 by 12. 12 manuscripts. 12 by 12. 12 picture books. 12